Nothing good.
That was a
Nothing
bad
good.
one.
What's going on with you, John?
Uh,
Happy Thanksgiving again, everybody.
Yeah,
We're,
we
we're
did
over
our
that.
Thanksgiving show.
Yeah, we're over that. We're on to Black Friday. This is Black Hole
Yeah.
Friday. Celtics could not do a damn thing tonight.
I don't know. I mean, I guess hats off to everybody who watched the whole game, because this would have been an easy one not to. This was a horrible game, win or lose, and so everyone's going to be understandably bummed out and apoplectic in the chat, and
The
we get it.
comments are
So
not going to be a pretty place to be tonight. I would say
yeah, I
it
mean,
would not
look,
be a safe space for most.
yeah. So this was bad, and in so many ways. So I don't know. I'm almost out of gas here.
This was bad. I missed the very beginning of the game. By the time I turned it on, they were down like 12, 13, like very early on. And
I don't even know what's worse, the start or the finish. It's really hard to say.
The finish is always worse, and I'm sure Bobby has the numbers to back this up. This is a very bad fourth quarter team. I saw the stats earlier this week on like differential or whatever it was. This might be one of the worst, if not the worst, fourth quarter team in the NBA. And tonight was another example of that. Yes, they made the early comeback in the fourth quarter to tie it up and take a lead, but then they completely blew it to a team that is not even close to as talented as you are. When you talk about closers, Tatum,
Sheesh.
Brown, I mean, Horford, Schroeder, Smart. You can go down the line of guys that should take precedent over anybody on the Spurs. Yeah, I know Murray's a great player, and hats off to him because he was the only one who showed up late in the game tonight on either side, and he was a stud down there for them. But this was bad. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, the start of this game was horrific, but the end was equally as bad because you had them, right? You had them. You were up, what, 7, 8, something like that?
Up 7. So the run ends up being 7. They were up 7, and they got outscored.
How does that just go? What? Like, how does that
They got
momentum
outscored
just
17-2 in the last 4:39 of the fourth quarter.
That is so bad.
Against this team. That's what's crazy to me.
Right. Against a team that has no business going on a 17-2 run at any point in any game, let alone the fourth quarter of a game where they just gave up a 24-point lead and they should have just lied down and died. Instead, you allowed them to come back and win the game.
Yeah, it's unreal. I mean, you mentioned the stat, Jimmy. They're last in the league. Dead last in the fourth quarter net rating. That's not good. That's something they went through last year, of course. We had some pretty horrific numbers in the fourth quarter last year for that group. Carrying over to this year, and man, like it just happened so fast. They got that nice little jumper for Smart in the high post area. They gave up a layup the other way. It's 5 points with 3 minutes to go. You think, they probably got this overtime at worst, and never scored a bucket the rest of the way. The final 320. Gave up free throws, fouled in the lane. Those short little jumpers, especially the white one over Horford. Horford had a pretty bad game. And why didn't Udoka challenge the Jalen block just for the hell of it? 90 seconds left.
The what?
Maybe the chase down block by Brown. Looked like the Celtics might have tipped it off of
I thought it was off Tatum's hand, to be honest.
I think it was Keldon Johnson there. So no, but what's the point in saving that challenge with 90 seconds left? I didn't love that.
Well, I would think if they just thought maybe they would need the actual timeout for a situation. They ended up needing the challenge for the jump ball. That was a jump ball at the end where Tatum wrapped him up, but by that point, I mean, I know. I mean, this is not a game that we're not going to blame the refs or
at that point you're down
usage of timeouts.
6?
But this is we haven't heard Ime yet tonight, but like among the things, and
we heard Pop in and out.
Sure, but among the things people liked about the Celtics, little correction run that they had there was the effort seemed to be there.
Yeah,
a lot of nights.
It was.
Last 2 times out, both losses, the effort hasn't been there consistently, and again, you just kind of you just can't do that. Ime, was said, well, we got to, we definitely, had some effort issues and, got down on ourselves when shots weren't falling. I mean, you came out dead ass flat on the road against a really crappy team. And, you deserve to lose, even even though you had a 7-point lead with 3 minutes to go. So the collapse was bad, but I mean, you got down 24 points to this friggin' team. These guys are terrible.
7-35 shooting to open this one.
Yeah.
Like you hate to just go the hyperbole route, but like I can't remember a start like that. And this team has certainly had some starts like that in recent years.
I know, but I mean, are we going to sit here like if I spend any more time on Twitter, it's just simply a matter of like when the shots fall, they'll be good. Like if they were good, the shots would be falling. Like, I mean, it's the other way around, guys. Like,
I know, and I hate that. I did that for 3 years at Syracuse, listening to Boeheim. It's like, all right, just hit the simulation button. We'll see what the percentage is, and then we'll.
If our shots start falling, everything will be fine. No, we're getting our looks. Yeah, I get it. It's the other way around. Good teams make shots. Like it's how we're going over this now for a year and 20 games. It's a team that isn't great offensively, doesn't move the ball great, doesn't have a lot of shooters. Like enough of this. Enough of the potential assists and they'll have streaks where shots are falling, and then you'll have streaks when they're not falling, and you'll be roughly this, which is a 500 team, which is kind of where they've been. I mean, it's not shocking. I don't understand why people wait for something magical to happen. This is the frustrating part of covering and following or being a fan of an inconsistent team.
We are some nights you'll see it now.
Like I said, I always
grab him real quick.
Yeah, I always see this. Go ahead. I always see this, Jimmy. It's like, I always compare this to golf. You go out one time or one hole and you friggin', nut a drive, hit it 8 feet from the pin, make your par, birdie if you're lucky, and you're like, easy game. If I just do that every
Simple
time, that's
game,
fine.
yeah.
and then you shake the next one in the woods and like, that guy didn't exist.
Yeah.
This is kind of how Celtics fans view this team, is only in the potential of what you saw in their best moments instead of looking at the large picture. And it's so baffling to me. It's baffling.
Just when you think you've figured something out, you've fixed the swing, it's all of a sudden, no, you just shanked one 40 feet to the left.
Yeah, that's the kind of golfer I am.
Yeah, okay, that actually makes sense. Okay, I still suck. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so I am going to shoot a 100 today. Okay. Okay, yep. But yeah, I mean, and look at the record. They're 10-10. I imagine they're pretty close to 500 over a much longer stretch. They're a very mediocre team. And a game like this sucks because you can never play your style of basketball when you're down 20. You know what I mean? You're down by so much. Now you're throwing everything out there. You've got Cantor playing. And Cantor was great tonight. I know he missed a few at the rim, and people were going to maybe focus on those things. But I know he was leading the team in plus minus for a bit. But it's just one of those games where you can never complete. You don't know what the hell you're watching. Your team you're just fighting to claw back to get it close, and then it's just runs. One team goes on a run, another team goes on a run. There's no consistency to the game. It's just ugly. And then for them to, again, I'll go back to it. For them to actually come all the way back, show some resiliency, show some fight, and then to blow it like that to a team that isn't good. You know what I mean? It's like, you should hold on to a 7-point lead against a bad team, regardless of how you got that lead to begin with, So, again, what is it about these fourth quarters? Is it coaching? Is it just lack of killer instinct? Is it, tired legs? I don't know what it is, but it's becoming like the norm now. I mean, we already saw this. We already saw the stat. They're literally the worst fourth quarter team in basketball, efficiency-wise, whatever it is. So, this is now their MO. You can't ever be happy with any level of a lead that you have, because statistically speaking, you will lose that lead if it's anywhere within striking distance of the opponent. I mean, this is a bad team, the Spurs, and they closed it out. And Murray was the guy tonight who looked like he wanted it. I hate to say that somebody wants it more than somebody else, because I think at the end of the day, if you ever played a sport, you want it. But it's more than just wanting it. You have to go out there and do it. You have to go out there and execute, hit the shots, hit the open shots. My guy Schroeder missed open shot after open shot tonight. So listen, if he has a good night, I give him credit. If he has a bad night,
Bobby, don't touch anything. Even when you change your name, this happens to the screen. It's a disaster.
You know what, Bobby? Just take the night off. Just go ahead, take the night off.
No, he's good. We're gonna let Bobby back in here. Bobby was listening to Ime.
That sounds like a short Ime press conference.
We'll get a little bit. How short was Ime, Bobby?
Yeah, just a few minutes. Calling out the team essentially again. Guys trying to find their own rhythm instead of playing together. I said, we've seen what we can be when we're together on the offensive end, and this one, I thought the biggest line of all was it shouldn't take 2 or 3 quarters for guys to be looking for their rhythm, their shot. And, I kind of noticed this through the first, 2 months of the season now? Like these Ime callouts, they're directed at the team pretty broadly, but they almost always seem to most distinctly apply to Tatum, don't they? Like, Ennis Cantor's not trying to... Well, Brown's still so out of it.
He is, but look,
you think about it.
It's the same thing. It's ultimately you have it's again, and this is another narrative that's just going to drive me nuts. Like, every time we see the cutaway of them smiling or laughing, or they both have good games together, it's like ultimately it's again, anybody watching this team sees disconnect. It doesn't look like, especially those two guys are, playing together in any sort of way. It is a my ball, your ball sort of thing, even at the end. And again, I want to look at it one more time. I don't know if anybody else noticed it. When they're down 3 and Tatum has the ball late and he drives and he gets that little one-footed shot, which was a decent shot for him. Who's standing in the corner wide open?
Yeah, I thought Brown was invisible for most of this
Brown
game.
was standing right there in the corner. And if you're thinking, I got my guy Jay here, and if the heat comes and this guy comes over, if I go and this guy cheats, bang. That's got to be, before you go, that's got to be in your head. And to not even to not make that look, you got to know that. You got to know that. That's what's strange to me. Like, you think of everything. This guy comes, I'm going to hit the big man if somebody's cutting or blah, blah, blah. If this guy comes off Jalen, who's in the corner, I'm kicking it right to him for a game-tying 3. As it was, he was only taking a shot that would have put him down 1. That should have been like option 1. I hope this guy comes to me right now because I want to find Jalen open if this sucker takes the bait. And no, it didn't happen, and I want to look at the play again. But that to me, that one kind of stood out there at the end.
And there was another one that I texted you guys where it was Brown who drives to the basket and just does a wild layup that, over the top and just didn't even come close to going in. This was late in the game where they were in mid collapse. And again, another situation where if Brown's driving to the hoop and 3 guys collapse on him and he has to do a circus shot, in the back of his head, he should be able to say, okay, I'm going to kick this out to, over here or over here. And instead of just going up with it. And maybe it's because he missed a few straight possessions and didn't get an attempt. I don't know what the reason would be, but it's the decision-making, again, on the offensive end that sunk these guys.
Yeah, and I don't have the numbers tonight, but I have loved tracking these numbers over the last 2 weeks here. And on Wednesday, Tatum passed to Brown 4 times. Brown passed to Tatum 2 times. So it's just 6 passes between them over the course of probably fewer minutes in that game because of the Brown minutes limit. But, overall, they're averaging about 25 on the court together over the course of a game. You would think it'd be close to 20 passes between the two every game. And again, here, no more than 7, right? Just right in line with the average. There's no connectivity between them at all right now. Tatum did make some decent looks getting off the ball. I like that pass out to Romeo out of the double team. I liked him bouncing off the ball to Romeo, playing to the right corner. He does that thing with other guys. It almost makes no sense why he can't play a 2-man game with Brown there.
It's so weird.
A little pick and roll or just something. Like, it's almost like it's not. If Ime had some crazy explanation for it, just the system they're running or the directions they want to bend the defense, he doesn't. It's like they got to learn to play with each other, and almost everybody, him included, is confused why they can't.
It is strange. I mean, I know. Here's the thing. With Brown, he just it's not his game. It never has been. He's got tunnel vision. I don't think it's a not passing to Tatum thing. I think he's just, he doesn't.
He doesn't have the ball a lot to begin with, too.
He doesn't have the ball enough, and when he does, he kind of does his thing, and he doesn't really look up at all. It just doesn't. It's just not his thing. I think he can make the the play that's there, but he's not going to get, he's not creating or making plays for other people but that's just not his thing. We see it all the time. And sometimes it benefits him. You get those stretches where he goes on 10-0 runs or whatever when he's cooking and he gets hot and you get out of his way and it's great. It just isn't his thing. With Tatum, like I said, I think he just buries his head and tries to win it on his own, because that's how he thinks he needs to do it. He had one of those patented step back threes, maybe in the third quarter when they were cutting into the lead, and the next possession down, he gets all dribbly again and he takes another contested pull up three. Okay, the last one went in. Probably don't need to do it again, but he's just kind of like, here I go. I'm going to start cooking. That's just how he gets himself going. It's just doesn't,
Nothing's
it's not working.
easy.
His numbers suck. His numbers are terrible right now. He's got to, I don't know how long you just try to shoot your way out of it and wait for things to get better. Everything about what he's doing right now is worse.
He needs to change, right? Like
he has to change at this point.
Transformation in his approach, or he's going to have a bad season. And if you remember his 2019, he had a bad season just because of his approach with the long twos, the shot selection, didn't have the ball enough to develop a rhythm.
Right. A correction in 2020, and then he's back again. He's back to all his worst habits. Way more again, across the board, more isolation, way more long twos, getting to the line less than he did. Everything is kind of going in the wrong direction for him, and then the shots are also just not falling.
And we're 20 games in now officially. Like this is where it's not early anymore. Like he is having a bad season right now, and corrected it for 3 games or so there against some poor competition, and right back to it against the Spurs team that isn't high competition either. I mean, they have lost 6 straight coming into this. Not a profound defense. This is the team he scored 60 against. Thought he would eat up Jakob Poeltl and some of these other guys in the pick and roll here, and really didn't do all that much of it. They didn't take advantage of some of the poorer, smaller defenders in motion. Just spot ups against contest from defenders, and
he just holds the ball. He's still just holding the ball too long.
And all that different
He's just
stuff.
holding it too long again. Jimmy, can you believe what Bobby just said?
I can't. Oh, talking about the opponents?
Tatum.
Yeah. Oh, about Tatum at all? No.
Tatum. Yeah.
Yeah.
Critical. Bobby's had it. You've pissed off Bobby Manning, Jason.
No, I mean, I've said all along.
This is a different Bobby than after the. This is a different Bobby than after the last game.
We've talked about the bike. We've talked about bumps and bruises and all these the ball. I don't want to hear about the ball again 25 games in at this point.
The bike that he's not pedaling?
Yeah, the bike's apparently done. Listen, not many questions for me these days. I'm not using them on the bike.
Yeah, the bike that he sits on and doesn't pedal, that bike?
You'll have to ask the bike question,
the bike that's as far away as the furthest possible place he could sit from the team.
Bike gate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
we have our eyes on
this
bike gate.
We got our eyes on bike. We know bike gate.
And add this to the Raptors one. I thought there was only one bad loss for this team all year, and now they add a horrible one to the resume. Like if this was March Madness, you'd be like, oh, how are they going to overcome that Spurs loss on Selection Sunday? This is just brutal. And they have had a few of these gut punches over the last 2 years here. This is bad. I mean, come on. You got to pick these up in the standings.
And you know what? They did the classic thing we thought they'd do, Bobby, which was like suck for most of it, play well enough for a short stretch, and it would be good enough. And it should have been good enough. And you escaped this one.
I thought they were going to win.
Yeah, and I thought they were going to
win this one so easily.
Well, so this is a game where this is the difference between the loss to the Nets. Is that I never thought the Celtics were going to come back and give him a chance and give him a run and come back. You said that you did. Tonight, I thought that they were going to give everyone a run for their money, and they did. I thought they were going to pull it off. Once they took the lead, I was like, they pulled it. They're going to close this one out. So that's why I was so surprised. Obviously, I was surprised that they went down 24 or whatever it was. But I wasn't surprised to see them make a comeback because they did it last year against the same Spurs team, and I figured that it's the NBA. It's a game of runs. The Nets are good enough to keep you at bay and prevent it from all the way happening. The Spurs aren't. The Spurs really shouldn't be good enough to come back from 7 down at the end.
Remember that game last year in the locker room that followed? I don't think this is that bad, but it's
no, I don't think so either. But that comment, it made me think, that was brutal.
the despondentness over that.
But they looked
loss was
horrible against
all
the Nets,
time.
and they looked horrible against the Nets. The Jays were cold against the Nets, and they came out super cold again tonight. Tatum, I thought, played a much better second half. He was a lot more active. He was hitting some shots. He even followed up a miss with a putback.
He did.
But
That
yeah,
was a good little stretch
yeah,
there. It's
no,
actually that was the one where I didn't like the shot he took, but I loved the follow.
right.
Right.
Oh yeah, and he's hustling. He's on the boards. Like I said,
He had
moving
a
the ball
couple
a
of taps
little
that he
bit.
kept it alive. Right.
I did look at the numbers, John. Like the passing
It's an
is back.
approach. I keep saying, and again, I don't think it's an effort
Yeah.
thing. I think it's an approach. I agree. This is where Jimmy and I differ a little bit here. I don't think he's only concerned with stats. I think he thinks the way that he impacts the game best is by scoring. And yes, he likes scoring and he feels good about himself because he feels like that's a job well done. I don't think it's simply because he likes to see the big box score numbers. I don't think so. I just think I agree with Bobby in the sense that he does have to change his approach somewhat and live with fewer stats and fewer whatever if it's going to create some flow and get things going for other people, get him moving off the ball, just doing different things. Just the approach is bad right now. It's making him a worse version of himself instead of better. He's pressing and he's doing the same. He's just digging deeper holes for himself. He's got to change his approach.
And the defense, it's there all game. Spurs aren't throwing anything remarkable at you offensively, but you hold them to 35% in the third. They were at 29%, like when I thought the game was over midway late in the fourth, and they finished that fourth 45%. That's the kind of boost they had down the stretch offensively, just going right down the lane there. And when the Celtics were at their worst, like the defensive numbers are good for this team on the aggregate, but with teams sometimes the eye test, you have an eye test situation on a game like this. When it mattered, weren't guys just getting right to the rim, slashing downhill, getting open looks, like fairly easily? Murray's, White's, those kind of guys there.
Yeah.
Even Jakob Poeltl getting his hand free a little bit in the lane. Like, these are guys that should not be killing you. Keldon Johnson hasn't had a good year. He gets out there and dunks on Grant's head. It's like, those are the let-ups right there that just have you spinning your head, even on a night where Ime and, everybody feels good about the defensive effort. Those momentary breakdowns, and the most important one in the fourth right there, all you needed was one or two stops down the stretch there to just shut this down, and they couldn't do it. It was unbelievable.
And then I know there's a lot of people on,
Horford minus 30 in this one.
Horford had a rough game. Rough game. He was on skates. This was one of his worst defensive games. Offensively, he's been struggling. This was one of his worst defensive games.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to wonder: are the games in the minutes starting to add up a little bit?
Well, this is where not having Rob is killing you.
Yeah, I was gonna say with no Rob and
because you're
Cantor playing 20 minutes now.
You're playing Cantor serious minutes, and now Cantor's getting the Grant treatment from last year, which is thrust into an environment where he can't really succeed because he's playing probably against lineups he shouldn't be in against, and amount of minutes.
I thought he was great tonight.
Doesn't deserve. He was there for the run when they cut it from 24 into single digits, and actually their defense played better. Cantor was in there during that stretch, but I think that was as much the Spurs sucking as it was anything that the Celtics did defensively during that stretch. But he was on the floor for that early run. It's those second half ones, and late in the game there with Cantor playing critical minutes, wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple possessions where it was like, damn it, he turned it over. It was like somebody made a really nice pass to him and just like hit him right in the chest, and he turned it over. Like, that was a tough one, and missed a couple at the rim. But
that overall, drop down the stretch was tough.
Yeah, overall though, he
was
one of the least problems tonight, I would say, overall.
No, Grant was good. I thought Smart minus the turnover late was great.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, Cantor ended up plus 28 in 18 minutes. So, you're not going to, he missed a couple of shots. He could have made more of a contribution offensively than he did.
Yep.
But he was out there during better stretches. Al minus
during their
29.
Comebacks,
as you said, Al minus 29 was brutal.
Yeah, you're gonna end up in a place over the next week here where Cantor's your guy again if you have to sit Al down.
You're just so thin at the big position now. I mean, you were thin to begin with, and now you're even more thin because you don't have Rob, and who knows with Rob, right? I mean, at the end of the day, he might be back on Sunday, and then he might be out again
Sunday.
He's out. He didn't travel.
Nothing. Right. Well, my point is, you never know what you're going to get. He might be in the game, he might be out of the game. He's just very, from an availability standpoint, extremely
And this is what we worried
unreliable.
about, right? Like early on, Horford was rolling, and I'm sitting here like, oh, they're not overusing this guy, are they? Just
Oh yeah,
just killing the battery in like the first 5 minutes after pulling the toy out of the box. It's like, man, he already looks exhausted out there, burnt out. It's the defense regressing in a way like it did tonight is really worrisome. We've known the offense isn't there. That's not as concerning. That hasn't been there all year. But this was the story of the game for me. Horford just completely reeling back his production on the defensive end of the floor.
bad night for him.
It's a good game, good team defensive night against a bad offensive team, but the individual moments he let up in that regard, especially when he's been so good on the perimeter, allowing that white pull-up after the block on Johnson late there. Tough one for Horford here.
And the concern there is that it's not like an effort thing for Horford, right? No one really has ever questioned Horford's effort. It's just like more of a physical thing, I think. Like I just don't know if he can give you 30 minutes a game every single game.
He shouldn't have to.
Well, he shouldn't have to, but that's the problem now. And now he does. Because who the hell
John,
else is going to play?
John, you can probably get Moses Brown back for pretty cheap.
Mo Brown playing like 1.6 minutes a night. Let's
Where's Cornette at?
Take a quick pause. We want to tell everybody again about our sponsor here, calm.com/garden, 40% off. It's the #1 sleep and meditation app, teamed up with LeBron James to help you train your mind and become the champion version of yourself. As we like to say, the best version of yourself. So LeBron, if you ask him, getting good sleep, finding time to rest, one of the most valuable things you can do for your mind or body. From this, it's the sound of, what do you got? Rain. You know what it's got. It's got all these awesome sounds, calming sounds.
Like a fan. You can do some white noise.
Ocean, white
meditation
noise.
Stuff.
Stories. It's literally got everything.
Bedtime stories.
Music.
Things that will take you off the edge after a Celtics game. Put it that way. After a horrible Celtics game, what can help you come down from it a little bit?
I'm calm, by the way.
calm.
I am calm. I've been angry.
You might be calm, but there's other people that might not be as calm.
I know. I'm calm. Right now I'm calm.
You're calm.
But
yeah.
I want you
But
guys
if you're
to
not calm, you can go to
calm.
calm.com/garden for 40% off for the premium subscription. It's like a whole, you think you've been to calm.com, you haven't until you've tried the premium subscription. You don't even know what goes on the premium side of this app.
Yeah, that's where the real action is. So Jimmy said it all. We'll move on. Again, Celtics losing here, getting outscored 15-0 down the stretch. We're down as much as 24 points early in the game. Again, I don't know what's uglier, going down 24 in the first half or getting outscored 15-0 by this crap team at the end. A lot of issues. It's, again, you know me, I'm not an excuse maker, but you see how badly they miss Rob, and this is really the downside of the inconsistency with him. You have the knee issue, and now it's a non-COVID illness that's so bad that you know in advance that somebody's going to be out multiple days. So this thing must be wiping people out. Rob was ruled out for Sunday yesterday, you know?
Is this what Richardson had?
There's a bad flu this year, for sure.
Yeah.
Is this what Richardson had? Is this what one
Richardson too. Richardson might rejoin the team. In Toronto,
which would be helpful. He's played well going back.
You need it. You need the depth. You need the depth.
Tough thing is, Romeo's giving them good minutes here. Grant's been awesome. I thought the last few games here, tonight. Like he's giving you shooting, that little butt bump down low to free himself in the lane, and just doing little things that he wasn't.
I know, but they're just not. They're holding the line, but you're not expecting much from these guys. And when you get plus,
like
when you get plus performances, you're happy. Grant was definitely good tonight. Those guys hung in there. That should be fine.
That's what you need, yeah.
But that's what you need. But you can't have your stars play like
crap.
That's
what I was just gonna say. Like if the stars get right, all of a sudden you're looking at a rotation that's pretty good here. I see people going nuts about the rotation.
But it goes both ways, though, Bobby. We've seen a lot of times where the stars play well, and the bench comes in, and they just and they're like, you got to get these guys off the floor. So at the end of the day, again, this is what makes you 500. Your stars are inconsistent right now, and the bench is not deep, and you're lucky when you survive your bench minutes. But if all you do is survive them on a night where you need a boost because your starters are getting their asses kicked, you really don't have a chance. So again, it'd be different if, like, you talk about it again, to use cross sports analogies. Anybody here who's a Bruins fan knows when the top lines on the ice are the best team in hockey, but then the rest of the game, you're like, okay, these other guys are like pretty. So when the top line doesn't score, the Bruins don't win. Like here, the Celtics starting unit isn't so good that they're blowing people out as it is, So, I mean, they have to be really, really good to overcome how ordinary or below average this bench is.
Right.
And so,
and when you
Tatum and Brown started the game in the first half with these guys, I mean, they just put them in such a big hole with their performance.
Right. When you have Brown, who's apparently not close to where he should be, and then again, a bad game from Schroeder tonight. If he has an okay game or a decent game, they probably win this game. They probably hold them off at the end.
That's probably been the most reliable thing over the last month here is him.
Right.
And
exactly. He's been your third, or second when Brown's out. He's been your second or third star. And tonight he was just another guy.
And they started him, which was good. Like that, I thought that would be an adjustment that would get you going out of the gate. And instead, they just were awful. He even missed a layup in that first quarter, I think, which we said he never does.
Right.
That start was baffling, and we keep asking, was it the start? Was it the finish? Ime pointed more toward the start, and I can't disagree, even though that collapse was pretty awful. Just because the Spurs were doing nothing during that stretch. They didn't build a substantial lead at all. They were missing some mind-blowing shots inside, too. If you really went on a nice run there to open the game, you might have been able to put them down big and just walk out of here.
You can play your game.
Pretty good.
You can't play your game when you're down 24. You're constantly just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing, how can we chip away at this? You can't.
You got to put Parker in. Yeah.
You can't. You can't get comfortable. You can't play defense the way you want and slow the game down at all. So it's just, again, it was just an ugly game to sit through, and not the way I'm sure most people wanted to spend their Friday night.
Yeah, and
I know it wasn't the way I wanted to.
I don't know what people want from Ime either. It's like
I don't get the Ime stuff at all.
It's just, why? Because it's like any sport. The coach is always the first one to go, first one to get the blame. I mean, coaches are getting fired left and right now in football. It's just that's how it's always been. It's easy to blame the coach. It's like a parent who doesn't blame their kid for anything, right? His kids never be wrong. It's always everybody else.
But, where do you want him to go? You can keep screaming all these names off the bench. They played Neesmith. They played Cantor. They played Parker. Bruno hasn't been here all year. I'm sorry. There's obviously something he's not showing that isn't making him available. Wancho, we've seen the bits and pieces, and it hasn't looked good. And Pritchard. I don't know. Listen, I'd love to see Peyton Pritchard. It hasn't looked good anytime he's taken the court. And there's a reason these guys end up buried on the bench. There always is. And listen, we can bemoan the rotations after a loss, but if they win this game or scrap it out down the stretch here, are you really still saying oh, why didn't we see Pritchard and these other guys?
There is not a single NBA fan base that doesn't crap all over their coaches' rotations. It doesn't even matter whether the team wins is successful or not. That's the only thing you can point to, because it's easy to say, it's, again, to use the cross sports analogy, it's like, bringing guys in from the bullpen. Sometimes it just doesn't work, and it's the manager's fault, not the fact that the guys just sometimes, some players, they suck sometimes, guys who come off the bench when you're playing starters with bench guys. The reason they're bench guys is they're not good enough to be starters, which means sometimes they're just going to suck. And that's just how it works.
No, but my point is,
everyone gets mad at rotations. Rotations mean when you're mixing and matching parts and bringing people in off the bench cold, and sometimes they just don't freaking have it. It's so easy to get mad at rotations.
Yeah,
it really is. Everybody does it. Where it's not a Celtics problem.
If you're healthy and you have that fourth quarter differential that they do, you probably start to look at what you're putting out there in the fourth. But it doesn't go back to who's playing and who isn't.
It's the buy-in. It's the buy-in. This is the problem from the get-go. And this is where, if you're going to point to something, I'm not going to say it's Ime's fault per se, but the point was you brought this guy in because you wanted to be challenged and you wanted to be push hard. And you just get Ime going out there and saying, we're not doing this and we're not doing that and we're not whatever. And you had games early in the season where there were effort issues. And now you've got him calling them out again for not playing hard and not moving the ball and trying to, hunt for their own offense. You just can't do that. You need better buy-in, and it has to be top down. When when the best players don't do it and they just go out there and they start hunting, buckets for themselves, that's what happens. And I know that there's people here say it a lot in the chat. And you're like, what are they supposed to do? Pass to other people? Again, what choice do you have? If one doesn't work, do something else. Like,
just get on the roll. Like, there's certain things.
Well, move without the ball. Like, the best play all game long. Tatum drove, kind of, looked like he got a little trapped underneath the basket, so he had to wing a pass to somebody, and then he rolled right around to the corner, got the ball back.
Yeah, we got back from Romeo.
Got the ball back and hit a three, and I was like, oh, he found another spot. He drove, kicked it, found another spot, got open, hit a three. I was like, oh my God, there it is. Like, do that. That was like
it's not that hard. I mean, the 17 Celtics
work to get yourself open, work to get to your spot, move without the ball. They do so little of it,
Yeah, and the 17 Celtics, it's not like they had sharpshooters. You had Horford, who was better at shooting back then. You had Crowder, who really came and went when it came to his pull-up threes off the catch, and Bradley, who was never a sharpshooter. Like, you didn't have like Golden State shooting back then, but you just ran the system, created the open shots, built rhythms for these guys. And really, when we go back to that Tatum conversation about his willingness to give up the stats, I still feel the same way about his mentality, essentially, as John does here, even though we went back and forth the other day. But you don't even have the possibility, even the imagination of him having one of those Jimmy Butler games where, Tatum didn't take a shot in the first quarter. He was just forcing the ball at other guys, like really trying to get them going and building a rhythm with those players. Miami has better role guys. They move like crazy. They do a lot system-wise that gets those guys in the good spots. They're not just sitting at the line waiting for the pass. But that's where Tatum could really start to experiment this year as a creator, is just really take back the shot attempts and ramp up the passes big time in certain games. The thing is, do you even end up in a worse position offensively? Maybe, but why not try it? You're losing some of these games anyway.
That's what I mean, is like, what would be the worst thing in the world? And again, we point to Butler, and
we wouldn't be mad, would we? If we saw that and they lost, and it was like, all right, that was a good try.
if he did the petulant Kobe, remember that time when Kobe got called out for shooting, so he just went out and didn't take a shot and just passed, and his team lost by 60 or whatever. Whatever game that was, he's like, okay, I shoot too much, you do it, just to prove if I don't shoot, no one's going to score. You don't want to see that, but you're right. I mean, I forget what the situation was when we brought up that Butler thing, but there was just talk of him doing that specifically for people. Like,
we were in the East Finals,
yeah, like this guy, this is what he lives for. Like, he'll try at his own expense desperately to get people up and going and engaged.
It's really admirable. You got to love that.
It is. So we definitely dig that. Grant at the podium now.
Yeah.
Is Cantor ever going to take the podium?
Never.
Isn't that not allowed? I mean, I guess they'll let it go.
Like, guys, I'll be back in 10 seconds. All right, coming right.
Yeah, I feel like
I don't know if Grant
guys every game.
Well, I know. I don't know if Grant's. I don't know if Cantor's a focal point enough of the team right now to really give a quote that I guess the reporters are going to be able to hang on. And I don't know if Grant is either, but Grant loves to talk. And listen, shout out to Grant. He's saying the right things. He's, holding himself accountable, holding the team accountable. You look for guys that want to step up after a loss and take the blame or take the brunt of it and try to work towards getting the team going in the right direction. And they don't have the captain, sort of take on that role.
I didn't even say this. They sent Grant out to midcourt on Wednesday. It was probably on TV. Maybe it wasn't. To give like a little speech, a Thanksgiving speech. Remember opening night? They always have someone go out, and they sent out
it was
Smart.
Grant?
Yeah, well, they sent out Smart on opening night, and it was a very uninspired speech, just kind of grumbling and saying thanks for coming and putting the mic down. Grant gave a pretty impassioned speech. Have a great Thanksgiving. We love playing for you guys. And the crowd went nuts. It was like, whoa, there's the captain.
Grant.
Hey,
no, but I mean,
if he wants it, John, if he wants it, he can have it. I want somebody who wants it.
But Jimmy was just saying, like, there is something to Grant, just like the energy and the enthusiasm and just speaking up on things. And there's so little of that on the team that it's like, all right, it's refreshing. And that's why they draft him in 2019 to some degree, in spite of some challenges that he has physically on the court and just adapting to this level. They wanted a big boost in the room, and I thought he gave it to them that year. He's starting to play better. Again, like, you can't rule out him becoming the best player out of all these young guys right now. I mean, that's where he is right now. Out of all four of those young guys, he's the best player. And
I know, but it's like...
why can't we just be happy about one good thing?
That's like, positive. That's a positive way to think about it, I guess.
If the other drafts weren't bust, John, or I don't want to say that yet, but if the other drafts weren't draft picks weren't veering toward bust, you'd be looking at Grant at 22 or whatever it is, and you'd be saying, oh, a decent pick.
No, saying Grant is the best of the kids is like saying, like, spraining my ankle is my favorite injury. Like, it still isn't good. I just
still hurts.
How's it not good?
It's better than a torn ACL, I guess. Like, you can't say that it's a good. The Grant
That's
is
not
like
a good comparison. You're
Grant's not
pretty
a
good with those, but
Grant's not a good thing. Grant, it's just like it's the best of a bunch of bad things.
Yeah, it's like, what's your favorite vegetable? Like,
what's your favorite boiled vegetable? Like, I don't know.
Listen, this is
I guess I'll take the carrots.
This is a guy some people wanted to release last year, and now he's giving you 27 good minutes in a game.
Bobby, but it's a different season.
I'm leaving again. It's not because I'm mad. I just have to. I'm having a technical.
There's no sense in comparing Grant from last season to Grant from this season. I think everybody agree that he's much more reliable and better. He's hitting his outside shots. He looks like he has a purpose out there, and he's taking. I don't want to say a leadership role because that's a little too much, but he is taking sort of an initiative of that style of, whether it's on the court or off the court. He has the right attitude. He's a guy who seems to spread positivity, and that's important, and that's going to help him out. If it doesn't help if everyone on the Celtics wants to pout and complain and mope and all this stuff, if
he's still giving you that.
If Grant wants to focus on himself and being that positive, aspect or whatever you want to say, then that's going to work for him, and it'll pay off, in the long run. And it's making him a better player, The power of positive thinking goes a long way. And I'm sure he's practicing his ass off,
and he's been fairly consistent, right? John talks about, like, the ups and downs of these role guys. Like, there hasn't been huge ups and downs for Grant. I think he's been steady. 40% three-point shooting and
this year
4 or 5 rebounds and 10 points if you're playing him consistently. So that's something you can depend on right now. And, I think that's a good thing. Maybe it's not a good thing that's one of the best things going for them right now, but
it's not.
It is a good thing.
It's not his fault that it's not enough. I mean, he's doing what he's,
I said this today during the game.
Do.
If you put him on a championship team, he'd be a pretty helpful piece, wouldn't he?
No.
What?
No, he
versatile defender, hit shots
on a championship team. I don't think he'd he'd play a lot.
I don't think he'd play a whole lot either.
Put him on the Lakers.
Very quickly. This
was that type of a player, sure.
This was we talked about Ime. This was Ime earlier, talking about the ball movement situation.
I don't think it was so much late in the fourth quarter. I think it was more to start the game. It seemed like everybody was trying to get themselves going, and so second quarter on, we were actually moving the ball, inviting the double teams. They went in the box and one on Jason late, and we got the looks we wanted, wide open corner threes for Dennis and penetration from other guys. So Jason got it going, and they started to try to take him out of it, obviously. And I think it was more so the first quarter of everybody trying to get going instead of playing team basketball. Late in the game, I mean, we got some decent shots, some decent drives there, and it wasn't as much holding it. It was, Dennis.
Not as much holding it, put most of the ball movement stuff in the first quarter, says that's why they dug a hole. They came in there. And it's, again, you see that a lot on those games you don't really want to play. Let's take some shots. If they go in, we build a lead, great. If not, it's like, are we ready to work for it or not? It's much harder work to work the ball around and try to get yourself a bucket.
Yeah, what do these last 2 games look like if Rob plays?
Better, man. He makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
they still lose.
I mean, the Brooklyn game, I don't know. That just looked like a game that they just they were getting beat up there.
Yeah, but it's almost good that he's sick, right? He's not hurt. He'll get a little rest on his legs. He'll come back hopefully with
better
some
that he's out
and,
sick now rather than hurt for
yeah,
sure.
of
Because
course,
you're right.
Of course.
Anything that's not a physical ailment, but
and you think of things that are similar to last year, just the day and night look on offense and defense to some degree too for this team when he's out there versus when he's not. I mean, he's in the 84th percentile of on-off guys in the league, which is pretty substantial. I think he's still their best net rating guy, 12 points better when he's on versus when he's off. Most of it's on field goal percentage. Your turnovers, offensive rebounds are up. Defense, you give up 8 less points. You force 3% more turnovers. Reduce the free throw rate at a pretty elite level. I mean, he just does so much. He's probably their X factor this year. So it's another thing that's the same as last year. If Rob's out there, you look pretty good. If he's not, you're really looking bad.
Yep. All right, guys, let's wrap it. Jimmy, I want to get a couple more thoughts from you here, and I think we're gonna call it a night here because again,
quick turnaround to Sunday.
Yeah, we got another one on Sunday. Jimmy, what do you got?
No, I was just taking a peek at the schedule because I know that we talked about it recently, but this is a 10-10 team, and they're coming up on a road trip, and they're coming up against some good teams, and very realistic, and perhaps more. I would say likely this is a below 500 team. In the next week to 10 to 14 days, and I mean, is that really is this what we can expect the rest of the season? Probably floating around 500, depending on who's up next. I mean, they were beating bad teams, but they obviously tonight was a different story. But they lose to good teams, they beat bad teams, and there are those random nights where it can go either way. This is just an inconsistent team. They've been this way since all of last season, and I don't see anything that's going to change that based on the current roster construction and players who are banged up or hurt or sick. Or
how do they look fully healthy though?
What?
How do they look fully healthy though?
Slightly above average, maybe. Yeah, I mean they're an above average team. They don't execute in the fourth quarter, healthy or not healthy, and they, I just don't see the killer instinct. I haven't seen it in a while.
That's a problem. Is I think since last year we've been waiting on that team defining run that you never saw,
like a little swagger.
But just something where it's like, this is who they can be, and
that Rob run last year was the closest you came.
Exactly. Rob, they went 9-2 there with Rob there as a starter. That was pretty good. And then you had the Fournier kind of double back with the COVID where we never really got to see everybody. And then it was Jalen went out and that was that. So injuries really kind of derailed that. But we've been waiting a year plus to see, let's get them loaded up. Let's get everybody in there at the same time, and let's see them run for 10, 15 straight games and see if you can get a sense of who this team could be. It's amazing. Again, I'm not an excuse maker. You guys know that. Because I think everybody goes through it. It's two things. It's twofold. It's pretty remarkable we haven't been able to see for a year and 20 games what a full roster for an extended period of time would look like to get a better sense of what this team is. But also it just magnifies, the issues they have and how, they just really do have a lack of talent depth there where when they do lose one or two guys, they're a really,
they've never been
really,
deep enough to take on those injuries or, whether it was missed time through COVID.
Right now,
COVID screwed them
hard.
last year.
And that was a key attribute in terms of building rosters going into last year with the COVID situation. It was like teams that could sustain losses were going to look good the next 2 years or so here. Teams that didn't have the depth to be able to miss their best player for a COVID list stint here were really going to suffer. And you could have predicted that with the Celtics last year especially. And this year, I'm kind of surprised the depth hasn't played out. We expected Nesmith and Pritchard to be contributors. I think almost everybody did. I thought Bruno would be able to play and not just be completely missing. Wancho too. Some of these guys that have just disappeared here, it's been surprising that they have. And maybe that's a criticism of
Wancho didn't disappear. He just didn't.
He was a starter to start the preseason.
He never appeared.
No.
They looked at it.
Bobby, one game in the preseason, and Ime
just like throwing things around.
Prefaced the crap out of it, saying, "Do not read anything into this." Okay.
And people still did. I remember we were talking about, they have. I was like,
John liked it. John liked the idea.
I said I
hated it.
I liked, and I still
I
like
didn't even
the
hate
idea.
it. I just knew it wasn't going to happen.
I still like the idea of the imperfect starting lineup to be able to have different rotations and more balance coming in. Like I said, shoehorning a Neesmith or someone in there just because you want shooting, and put him out there with starters and let him play there where that's all he has to do and he might get open looks. I'm still in favor of potentially doing that. And so that's why I was like, try anything, because I also didn't want to start Robin Al at all. I really didn't. Because I didn't like the big man depth. I didn't want Enes and Grant playing huge minutes. Coming in, with those second units. So but Juancho's clearly not it. And that's
I can't. They gotta send like a group trip up to Maine so we can go too, because that's gonna be fun when everybody goes up there and they win by 50 and Neesmith looks awesome.
It'll be more fun than coming to a game like this.
Yeah, we're just dying for that Maine trip where everybody's up there, and there's some good players on Maine like Cornette and Hauser and Dang Adele, who I covered in college. Like, I am ready for the Maine trip at this point. That's how low it's getting in the big leagues here.
Well, it might happen sooner than you think.
I remember a reporter asked Brad, Maine was having a great year 2 seasons ago or so, with Taco and Tremont and all of them, and they were making the playoffs. I think they were pushing for the playoff championship at that point. And a reporter asked Brad, do you owe it to Maine to give them a chance to win it all? With the run they're on right now. And Brad was just like, no. We're going to do what's best for the Celtics.
Yeah, no, not quite. No.
That was one of my favorite practice moments.
Yeah. All right. So just want to remind people again, we are back at this on Sunday because we have more games. Up in Toronto, is that right?
Toronto.
Yep, and then a couple of days off and a big one on Wednesday against the Sixers.
Home against the Sixers, so that'll be good. But you definitely want to
big one.
You definitely want to win this Toronto one. So just some programming notes. First and foremost,
they're all big ones.
I'll let everybody know at home. Patriots Titans. This is a huge game. 1:00 game on Sunday. We'll have a post-game show coming up right after with Evan Lazar, who will be in Foxborough covering the game. If you have not already, go to Patriots Press Pass on YouTube. Subscribe. That's our Patriots YouTube channel. We'll have preview materials leading up to the game, and then a live post-game show 30 minutes after the final whistle. So please make sure to subscribe there. Subscribe to our Celtics All Access channel, also on YouTube, for all of our Celtics content and all the podcasts and all the clips and videos that we do talking about the team. You want to make sure that you go there as well. We want to give one last shout out to our sponsor, calm.com /garden. It's the #1 sleep and meditation app. Once again, calm.com/garden, 40% off a premium subscription. So that's all I got to say, guys. We are back, as we said, with the Raptors. And what time is that? A 6:00 game?
I heard Grandy say 5:30. I don't know if they moved
that's
it.
For their that's their pregame.
Oh, all right, 6. Yep. 6.
I believe that's their pregame.
Yeah.
So that is
at
it's 6. Yeah.
6.
Yeah. So that's the next one, 6 p.m. tip-off. It's confirmed with the graphic. So make sure you're here after that game. We'll have post-game as well for that. So, again, happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Pistons Lakers Sunday, too. The rematch.
Yeah. We will see you guys again. We'll see you guys on Sunday. Hang in there, guys. Better days ahead, we think. Maybe.
We think. Yeah. Peace.
We think.